Stuber is an action comedy film starring Dave Bautista and Kumail Nanjiani. I was so hyped to see this movie because it's an action movie with Dave Bautista, and the bad guy of this movie is Iko Uwais. In the first episode of the Bronx Movie Club, I mentioned this movie was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I loved Iko in his Indonesian films such as the Raid movies and The Night Comes For Us. He's in Triple Threat, but I never got a chance to see that movie yet, but I bet he's awesome in that too. I was able to see this movie super early, and I was willing to go all the way out to Queens to see it. Luckily, I didn't have to go all the way out there. I was able to get a screening in Midtown instead. I dragged some buddies to come see it with me and everything. I was ready to watch some butts getting kicked and some names being taken. I saw the movie. I decided to sit on it a few days before writing down what I thought about it. But then when I finally sat down to write my review, I totally forgot what the hell this movie's about. I knew it was about Dave Bautista's character having to order an Uber to chase down a violent drug dealer because eye surgery made it so that he couldn't really use his own car. I knew that Nanjiani played the Uber driver and Uwais played the drug dealing bad guy. But a lot of the parts were kind of a blur to me. The rest of this movie was just kind of like a blur. Karen Gillan is in this movie, and for the life of me, I can't remember who she plays in this movie. But the reason why it's such a blur is because Stuber is only an average movie. The jokes are just kind of funny, the action is bloody, but it's not very memorable. So I jumped on IMDb to refresh myself about who was in this movie and what happened in the movie. The film starts with Bautista and his partner, played by Gillian, hot on the trail of Uwais. They bust him and his crew, and the second ugliest fight scene in cinematic history occurs. Don't you hate it when directors decide to shoot action scenes on shaky cam to hide the fact that they don't bother to have any sort of fight choreography at all? Well, this fight scene was shot by a man having a seizure. I couldn't even tell who was who in the fight because the camera was shaking so violently. I thought I was going to be seasick while sitting in my chair. The reason why I couldn't remember who Karen Gillan played in this movie is because she only lasts 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes of the movie. Since the beginning of the film, Bautista's character spends the next 6 months or however long it is searching for Uwais, the man who killed his partner. He finally gets a lead on where he is, but he can't drive, so he orders an Uber, which, ironically, his daughter just taught him all about earlier that day. Here's another thing about this film. This movie is like an hour-and-a-half long Uber commercial. The main character plays a guy who is like the last person on earth who has never heard of Uber. But the movie wants to treat us as if we've never heard of Uber either. Anyway, Nanjiani plays his driver. All Nanjiani wants is to get a 5-star rating so that he doesn't have to go below his 4-star average. He wants to finish his last ride of the night so he can go home in time to have sex with some woman who has friend-zoned him a long time ago, but he still thinks he has a chance at. He's a doormat and a loser who allows his boss to pick on him and humiliate him. He allows his riders to treat him like trash just for a 5-star rating, and allows his friend to convince him to cough up money on a business deal that he doesn't want to get into. He squeals, screams, and faints throughout the movie to the point that when he finally sticks up for himself at the end of the movie, I was too annoyed at him to care. Earlier, I talked about the second ugliest fight scene in cinematic history. You want to take a guess at what the number 1 ugliest fight scene is? You guessed it. It's the final fight between Bautista and Uwais. More shaky cam to make it look like the fight took place in one of those bouncy castle things in the middle of an earthquake. The funny thing is, the shaky cam thing only occurs for those 2 fight scenes at the very beginning and at the very end. Pretty much every fight scene that Uwais is in is shot in that crazy Sheezer cam style. One of the most awesome action movie stars working today is treated like some sort of random Asian guy with blonde hair. Uwais's character could have been played by anyone, and it's a shame that they treated him this way. I know I'm dumping a lot on this movie, but it's not a total piece of trash. Like I said, the action scenes that don't involve Uwais are pretty bloody and exciting. I thought the jokes were okay, but Nanjiani's character was way too annoying to enjoy many of the scenes he was in. The audience I was in couldn't stop laughing, so maybe I'm just like a sourpuss or something. But this movie is totally worth, I'll tell you, this movie is totally worth watching on Netflix on a Saturday afternoon with nothing to do. Or if it's a Thursday night and you have a spare reservation on your A-list, you can use that too. I can't recommend spending money to watch this movie. Save it for something better, like getting your cat's nails clipped or something like that. This movie gets a 2.5 out of 5 stars from me. This movie gets absolutely no tip from me.